Hey, welcome to What the Fuck. Just a couple things I think I want to talk about today rather than answer questions. First of all, just a big thank you to folks who tuned in Tuesday night. We had really great response, really great ratings, and it should, when the dust settles, it should probably be our biggest premiere, or for the network, the biggest show in their history, single episode. So I thank you for that. I want to thank Chris Frangiola and Margaret Cho, and my assistant Katie Curtright for all the hard work on Anarchy Afterword. I think that went very well. My actors, Jimmy Smits and Kim Coates, who did that with us. That was a lot of fun and informative, I think, for the fans. We'll do a couple more of those this season. And I've you know, I don't read reviews, and I kind of stay away from, I'll engage in social media after the premiere, but I usually don't read social media just because, you know what happens. It's just, most people who enjoyed the show are talking about it with other human beings, and it's usually only people who have something to gripe about that turn to social media, at least initially. So I tend to stay away from that. I still tweet stuff out and engage, but I tend not to read tweets or I don't read DMs or anything like that. But you know, and I've talked a lot about, obviously, the controversy in the episode, and at TCAs and several reporters. I did a local morning show out here today and talked about it again. And you know, obviously there's some blowback today. The PTC, which you know, look, I would imagine these are not evil people, but they are very they're just not very intuitive or intelligent individuals, meaning that it's such a small and simple view of process that it, you know, the fact that these people want to be monitoring what my children watch is terrifying, you know. You know, there is no awareness of what it is, the bigger objective of that episode was, the bigger point of the narrative, you know. And to me, that's a really simplistic, dangerous view of anything, never mind just the creative process. And I think it tends to generate from that rigid, you know, perhaps influenced by certain religious groups and people with other agendas. And so whenever that stuff crosses the line into censorship, it's just scary. You know, it's just scary on a not just a creative level, but on a personal level. You know, and there are some people, obviously, that have deep amount of sensitivity towards the idea of a school shooting and how painful that is. And what I'm about to say will probably sound somewhat callous, and I don't mean it to. I'm trying to be thoughtful about this, but for me, and not I'm a storyteller. That's what I do. I'm not a social guru. I am not a guy with an agenda politically, socially, morally, financially. I'm a fucking storyteller. That's what I do. My job is to engage, entertain, and perhaps make you think. And that's what I do on a daily basis. And I'm blessed that it's something I have a God-given gift to do, and that I can share with you and perhaps entertain you and bring you along for the ride. That's what I do, So when anybody tries to take that away from me or impede that, I get, I get defensive. I take that to heart. So this will be delivered with a certain amount of edge, and I apologize for that. But there was no political agenda with this episode. I've said over and over again, it's something that I've wanted to do for a couple of years. I've said that, it's of the world. And I will go as far as to say this, that it would be irresponsible for me not to tell this story. I have a hero, or an anti-hero, whichever you prefer, who is a father with young boys of that age. He's trying to protect them from the dangerous components of his outlaw life, and he deals guns. So to suggest that that piece of his life could not impede and bleed into the other area of his life, and that he'd be able to keep them separate, to me, it's irresponsible to suggest that could not happen. That these guys turn these guns out on the street, sell them to people unaware of who's using them and what they are being used for, And to suggest that those guns could not fall into the hands of people that were going to hurt other people, including children who perhaps might have some psychological and emotional issues, then that's ignorant, and that's to me that's almost more irresponsible. So it's this story that I wanted to tell, and it is the catalyst that takes us into the final act of my series. So it's not done gratuitously, it's not done arbitrarily. But I will say this on a bigger issue, that the idea of, if there was a greater good or a social purpose to perhaps this episode, my experience with these things, and I think if you take a moment to have that realization yourself, that when these tragedies happen, whether it's Sandy Hook, whether it's Newtown, Aurora, even going back to Columbine, I am of that generation. That was very much a part of what I experienced growing up. So you go back that far with this tragedy, that when they happen, they are so catastrophic and they are so emotionally damaging to us as a society, that there's this overflow of instant salve that people put on this. There's this bomb that we want to land, BALM, that we want to land on this tragedy to make it feel okay. So we talk infinitum about change and whose fault is it, and is it this guy's fault, and is it that guy's fault, and we go on and on and on. And to me, that's what the human condition needs to do. That's how we deal with the grief. That's how we process the grief. And I think what happens is we get to that point where suddenly it's, oh, okay, we're comfortable again. We feel safe, we feel okay, and that is the point at which progress fucking stops. The minute we feel comfortable, the minute the balm does its job and we're all sitting back and not reeling from the pain and the catastrophe of those things, is when we all sort of move on with our lives, And yes, if we were part of that tragedy, if we experienced the pain and the loss of that tragedy, we are in it every day. But that is a very small percentage of us. So what happens is, and I'm sure to the frustration of those people suffering that pain on a daily basis, is that there's a sense of, oh, okay, it's all gone away now and we're okay. And what happens is we just sit back and we deal with, whatever the current tragedy is of the day until it fucking happens again. And then it happens again, and then there's another shooting or there's another incident in a school with children, and then the uproar happens again, and it's that Groundhog's Day experience of, oh my God, how do we deal with this? Whose fault is it? And the process is always the same. So I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm just saying it is the thing. That is what happens. At the very least, I feel what I'm doing here, the tweets and feedback I'm getting from people who have suffered loss in school shootings, for me, and the PTC is, they're just fucking ridiculous, but regardless, they are engaged and making noise. For me, all this does, and in a good thing, is it makes us uncomfortable, man, and, at the very least, perhaps, I've ripped the fucking scab off a little bit, and I make people uncomfortable, and not that that's my job, not that I'm supposed to do that or I'm expected to do that, but sometimes as a storyteller, that's what we do, So at the very least, I look at the circumstances of this narrative this season, will make people uncomfortable, and it does rip the scab off. And perhaps, for another blip, we are forced to have the conversation again. We are forced to ask, how do we feel about that? Where are we at? Whatever happened with, the NRA, whatever happened with the lawmaking and the policies that were so vital and immediate at the point of that tragedy. Where are they now in that process? So at the very least, it begins that dialogue again. And again, that's not why I'm here. That's not my job. But if I can defend myself in terms of perhaps the relevance of being a storyteller, that's what I would put out there. So my sympathies and my compassion go out to you if you've suffered loss. But I will also say this, that as a creator, if I have to monitor everything I write with fear that it may make somebody uncomfortable, then there is no drama. If I'm writing a show about somebody with cancer, do I need to take into consideration all the people that have suffered loss by cancer? Do I need to take into consideration everyone that has perhaps lost somebody to an act of violence or a suicide? Like, at what point as a storyteller am I allowed just to tell my stories and let them live and let them have the impact and power that they're supposed to have? So again, my sympathies and my apologies if I've made people uncomfortable. My sense is that people who are outraged do not watch the show. They probably didn't watch the entire episode. They have probably heard through word of mouth or have seen excerpts of it, and do not understand the show, the point of the show, the use of narrative, the use of character, and the use of story in the bigger creative process. So I put that out there. I'm sure this probably didn't help, but sometimes you just got to say something. So again, a bigger thank you to for people for tuning in, and you know, until somebody kicks in my door and tackles me to the ground and cuts off my fucking hands, I'm gonna keep doing what I do. So, you know, fuck them, and thank you.